If you take the computer, it has its hardware, which has all the necessary infrastructure, memory, and processing power, and all the rest. And then on top of this, it has what's called an operating system, which is the which is what brings everything together. And then on top of this, many programs run. So even when we use a phone, it's the same essential architecture. And then each program does a specific task. So we can go browse the internet, or we can search, or we can talk on the phone, or whatever we do. Now, if you look at any program, that program is running and doing what it's doing because of all the infrastructure that's below it, the hardware, the transistors, and all the rest that's doing all kinds of things which the program doesn't even understand. And then there is the operating system, and then there is the program which has just a specific algorithm, as it were, to run what it's meant to run. And it's also connecting to the internet and downloading whatever is necessary and all the rest. So, just as a metaphor, if you look at it, it's an exact parallel in some sense, because our physical body is the hardware which has all kinds of complex processes that are running with so much intelligence. And then on top of this, there is the operating system, as it were, which is just the um, grounding one's own from genetic and environmental conditioning. There is a certain grounding that is there culturally and all the rest. And then on top of that, there are many programs which are basically nothing but the various functions we do. We may be working, we may be having the program as a father or as a son, as an employee or as a business owner, and all these various programs run at different times. And these programs also require connecting to, just as connecting to the internet, we have to connect to other people, we have to connect to um, other programs running, and so on. So if you look at this way, and if you look at each program, if it develops a sense of I, and if the program thinks that I am the author of the activities of the program, then we can see how it can result in a completely, I mean, it will look silly if we really look at it from that perspective. If Because a browser, for example, cannot do anything of its own without all the infrastructure below it and all the intelligence outside of it, and it plays a small role in bringing everything together. Similarly, when we do any activity, even when we speak, or when we listen, or we engage in any activity, there is so much intelligence at the physical layer, like the hardware of the brain and the physical functioning of the body. And there is so much intelligence outside, the language and the various data and knowledge that floats in the cloud. In fact, the word cloud, which is used, can be very appropriately used to the cosmic mind as well. There is the cosmic mind, which is the, or we can say the global mind, which is like a cloud which carries the collective memory and knowledge of everyone. And this is why we see sometimes, many times, the same idea coming to two people at the same time, and how things seem to happen because the ideas are in this cloud of collective mind, just like we have the cloud of the internet, which carries all the data of the internet. So, if we, again, no metaphor is perfect, but it may be one helpful metaphor to look at how everything has this intricate web of connectivity, and what we call as I is a small program that's running at any given time to execute what is necessary at that moment. So there is nothing wrong with that program. The problem is when the program falsely thinks of itself as the sole author of the program. When we say, I have done it, we can use the word I in two ways. Simply as a first person pronoun, if when we talk to ChatGPT, it says, I will give you a poem. When I ask ChatGPT, please give me a poem, it says, I'll give you a poem. At least as of now, it may change, but as of now, ChatGPT doesn't have any ego around it. It simply uses the I self referentially as a first person pronoun. So, in that way, we can also use I. There is nothing wrong in saying I have done this or I am going to do this. But when the I gets overloaded with the sense of ego, that I am the author of this and therefore I deserve credit for it, and I am hurt when someone criticizes it, all this, when this gets superimposed or overloaded on top of this I, is when suffering begins. So, if we strip it down to simply the self referential I, which is necessary to execute any program, and it dies when the program is over, and then the next I comes up for the next program, so on, then there is no problem with the I, because I is simply, just as Krishna says in the Gita, the just as the five senses are given by me, mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankara are all given by me. He says mind, memory, intellect, and ego. So the intellect is simply, or the ego rather, is simply another faculty necessary to execute a program at a given time. And once the program is over, its job is over, and then the next program and next program. So we can fully be focused on the program running at given time without any sense of carrying from the previous program, and thereby not only having a false sense of I, but also not being able to run the program well because it clouds with the functioning of effective functioning in this moment. So, if we simply rather focus on just running whatever is running right now, or which is to say, functioning in the most present, alert way, and once it's over, offer it as a service to the collective intelligence. So everything that's running is part of the collective cosmic mind. So whatever we are doing is simply furthering the collective mind. So this is why even in science it is always said that knowledge builds on knowledge. So everybody works on something, they put something out there. Like somebody was talking about AI, and they say everybody is talking about AI, but AI research has been going on for 60, 70 years now. Nobody knows about it because there has been so many unknown people working and putting this knowledge, and it's building on top of each other, and finally it comes to some fruition in some way. Similarly, everything we do, there is a long lineage on which we build, And so the knowledge we put out or the activities we put out are simply serving the collective. And if we recognize that it's all to serve the collective, and the highest service of the collective, of course, is to give this wisdom that the collective alone is. If we recognize that the collective alone is, and there is no individual, but only the collective, then the activities fall in the right place. And it is not a state of no activity, but it is a state of intense activity, in fact, without any false sense of doership, and therefore without any uh, unnecessary distractions either. So that's why there is a verse in the Gita where Krishna says, so such a every there are so many verses which just one verse, if we know this, it's we know the whole Gita. In this verse, Krishna says, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you give, whatever you do, that is, you do tapas for, that is, whatever you are desiring, surrender everything unto me and you're free. So Krishna says, Yat karoshi yad ashnashi yat juhoshi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya kurushva madarpanam. He says, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you yat karoshi yad ashnasi yat juhoshi, whatever sacrifice you do, dadasi yat, whatever you give to others or give to anyone, yat tapasyasi, whatever austerity you perform, yat tapasyasi kaunteya, O Arjuna, kurushva madarpanam, do it as surrender unto me. So if we surrender everything to the collective, to Krishna, to the Supreme Being, everything as a surrender to Him, because everything is from Him, of Him, by Him, in Him, then everything falls in the right place. And there is no one to even realize anything, because what is there is only the collective, and what's underlying the collective is the pure awareness. So when the sense of the false individual goes away, all that remains is collective at the manifest level and pure awareness as the unmanifest substrate. So rather than even putting effort to recognize or realize the truth, which is many times another activity of the ego, that's why, for example, Bhagavatam says, moksha is another goal of the ego, and this work transcends the goal of moksha. So when we recognize that even the desire for liberation is a desire, and therefore simply offer everything as surrender to Him, and then what shines forth is naturally that which always is.